F-61, was an American unarmed photographic reconnaissance aircraft. Based on the Northrop P-61 Black Widow night fighter, it was the last piston-powered photoreconnaissance aircraft designed and produced for the United States Air Force. Though produced in limited quantities, and with a relatively short service life, the F-15's aerial photographs of the Korean peninsula would prove vital in 1950, when North Korea invaded the South. 2. Design and development, edit. The F-15 reporter was created when the guns were removed from the experimental XP-61E, the last fighter variant of the P-61 Black Widow. With less than 6 months flying time, the first XP-61E was taken back to the Northrop modification shop where it was converted into an unarmed photographic reconnaissance aircraft. All the guns were removed, and a new nose was fitted, capable of holding an assortment of aerial cameras. The aircraft, redesignated XF-15, flew for the first time on July 3, 1945, with Northrop test pilot L.A. Slim Parrott at the controls. A P-61C-1NO, serial number 42 to 8335, was also modified to XF-15 standards as the XF-15A. Apart from the turbo-supercharged R-2800C engines, it was identical to the XF-15 and flew for the first time on October 17, 1945. For unknown reasons, Northrop subcontracted the nose for the F-15A to the Hughes Tool Company, 3, of Culver City, California. The F-15A used the existing P-61C wings, without fighter brakes, engines and tail sections, but with an entirely new, more streamlined fuselage housing a crew of 2 under a continuous bubble canopy. As a result of continuing development trouble with the Howard Hughes-designed XF-11, the staff of the Army Air Force Headquarters determined an immediate need for 320 F-15 reporters. Even before the first flight of the XF-15, an initial contract for 175 aircraft was signed in June 1945. Following testing, it was determined that the F-15 reporter possessed similar performance and flight characteristics to the troublesome XF-11, despite the reporter being powered by less powerful engines and using mostly pre-existing parts. This spelled the end to further development of the XF-11. The first production F-15A was accepted in September 1946. However, the contract was abruptly cancelled in 1947, possibly because the performance of the aircraft was rapidly being overshadowed by jets, with the last of only 36 examples being accepted by the United States Army Air Forces in April of that year. The last F-15 to be produced, serial number 45 to 59335, was produced as an F-15A 5.0, which differed from the Block 1 version mainly in having a new internal camera installation in the nose. It seems that this change had been contemplated for the last 20 F-15s as well, since some records indicate that these were all eventually redesignated as F-15A 5.0. 3. Design, edit. The F-15 had a revised center pod with pilot and camera operator seated in tandem under a single bubble canopy. The first XP-61E, from which the first XF-15 was converted, had the canopy hinged to the side, while all subsequent XF-15 and production F-15 employed a sliding canopy. The aircraft's 6 cameras were placed in an elongated nose, replacing the XP-61E's 4 guns. Production F-15A were powered by the same turbo-supercharged R-2800-73 engines as the P-61C. The aircraft had a takeoff weight of 32,145 pounds, 14,580 kilograms, and a top speed of 440 miles per hour, 382 knots, 708 kilometers per hour, at 33,000 feet, 10,058 meters. In the end, only 36 of the 175 ordered F-15s were built, and all were constructed from aircraft originally contracted to be built as P-61C-3. The pilot was seated in the front, with the reconnaissance operator in the back. The backseat occupant controlled the cameras and navigated the aircraft. However, the rear seat of the F-15A was fitted with a set of rudimentary flying controls, which made it possible for the reconnaissance operator to relieve the pilot if needed. Both crew members were rated pilots and both were trained in the reconnaissance task, so they usually alternated position on each flight. Operational history, edit. Of the 36 F-15s produced, 9 were allocated to the Air Materiel Command in the continental U.S., and the remainder were issued to just one squadron, the 8th Photographic Reconnaissance Squadron, PRS, attached to the 35th Fighter Group in Japan. The first 4 were sent over by ship, arriving in March 1947 at the Japan Air Material Area, JAMA, Kisarazu, Japan. Their voyage had not been smooth, and 3 of the 4 were in such bad shape that they were used for spare parts. 3. The 8th PRS had been non-operational for about a year, and was being brought up to strength to serve in the American occupation of Japan, participating in the post-hostilities mapping program in which the beaches, villages, road networks, and cultural centers of Japan were to be extensively photographed, work that was to be performed by the F-15 in association with the F-13 variant of the B-29 Superfortress. Under the command of Major Benjamin H. Albertson, the 8th spent most of the summer of 1947 preparing for their missions to come, spending June and July at JAMA helping to assemble the newly arriving F-15s. Captain Jarvis and Lieutenant Heistand were the first two pilots selected to fly back with the first pair of reporters in late June. The squadron spent most of July test flying their new machines. 4 additional aircraft. From Wikipedia, the Free Encyclopedia. Mexicana Aerofoto S.A. of Mexico City and assigned the Mexican registration XBFUJ. In Mexico, the reporter was used for aerial survey work, the very role for which it was originally designed. It was bought by Aero Enterprises Incorporated of Willits, California, and returned to the U.S. in January 1964 carrying the civilian registration number N9768Z. The fuselage tank and turbosupercharger intercoolers were removed, and the plane was fitted with a 1,600 gallons, 6,056 L, chemical tank for firefighting. It was purchased by CalNat of Fresno, California at the end of 1964, which operated it as a firefighting aircraft for the next 31 halves years. In March 1968, the F-15 was purchased by TBM Incorporated, an aerial firefighting company located in Tulare, California, the company's name representing the TBM Avenger. Their primary equipment, who performed additional modifications on the aircraft to improve its performance, including experimenting with several types of propellers before deciding on Curtiss Electric Type 34 propellers taken from a late-model Lockheed Constellation. 1. On September 6, 1968, Ralph Ponte, one of 3 civilian pilots to hold a rating for the F-15, was flying a series of routine Phosgene drops on a fire raging near Hollister, California. In an effort to reduce his return time, Ponte opted to reload at a small airfield nearer the fire. The runway was shorter than the one in Fresno, and despite Ponte reducing his load, hot air from the nearby fire reduced the surrounding air pressure and rendered the aircraft overweight. Even at full power, the reporter had not rotated after clearing the 3,500 feet, 1,067 meters marker, and Ponte quickly decided to abort his takeoff. He made every effort to control the hurtling craft, but the reporter careened off the runway and through a vegetable patch, before striking an embankment which tore off the landing gear. The aircraft then slid sideways, broke up, and caught fire. Ponte scrambled through the shattered canopy unhurt, while a firefighting TBM Avenger dropped its load of Phosgene on the plane's 2 engines, possibly saving Ponte's life. The F-15 was deemed too badly damaged to rebuild, and was soon scrapped, bringing an end to the aircraft's career. 1. Variants, edit. F-15A. XF-15. The first prototype, converted from the first XP-61E. XF-15A. The second prototype, converted from a P-61C, number 43 to 8335. F-15A reporter. Photo reconnaissance variant with a new center pod with pilot and camera operator seated in tandem under a single bubble canopy, and 6 cameras taking place of radar in the nose. Powered by the same turbo-supercharged R2800-73 engines as the P-61C. The aircraft had a takeoff weight of 32,145 pounds, 14,580 kilograms, and a top speed of 440 miles per hour, 382 knots, 708 kilometers per hour. Only 36 of the 175 ordered F-15s were built before the end of the war. After formation of the United States Air Force in 1947, F-15A was redesignated RF-61C. F-15s were responsible for most of the aerial maps of North Korea used at the start of the Korean War, too. RF-61C reporter. USAF designation for the F-15C from 1948 onwards. Operators, edit. 5. United States. United States Air Force. Alaskan Air Command. 449th Fighter Squadron, all-weather. Formed from equipment and personnel of 415th Night Fighter Squadron at Adak Airfield, Aleutian Islands, Alaska on September 1, 1947. Later transitioned to F-82 Twin Mustang in mid-1948. 8th Photographic Reconnaissance Squadron. Flew F-15A, RF-61C, reporter, 1947 to 1949, from Johnson AB, Japan. Aircraft reassigned to 82D Tactical Reconnaissance Squadron until inactivated on April 1, 1949. Continental Air Forces. 57th Reconnaissance Squadron and 58th Reconnaissance Squadron. Performed weather reconnaissance training at Rapid City AAF, South Dakota, July 1945 to January 1946. Specifications, F-15A reporter, edit. Data from Jane's All the World's Aircraft, 1947, 6. General characteristics. Length, 50 feet 3 inches, 15.31 meters. Wingspan, 66 feet 0 inches, 20.12 meters. Height, 9 feet 2 inches, 2.79 meters. Wing area, 664 square feet, 61.7 square meters. Gross weight, 28,000 pounds, 12,701 kilograms. Fuel capacity, 500 US gal, 420 imp gal, 1,900 L, in fuselage main tank with secondary tanks in the wings, plus provision for drop tanks under inner and outer wings. Power plant, 2 times Pratt & Whitney R2800C double WASP 18-SIL, air-cooled radial piston engines, 2,100 horsepower, 1,600 kilowatts each. Propellers, for bladed Curtiss Electric, 12 feet 8 inches, 3.86 meters, diameter fully feathering air screws. Performance. Maximum speed, 440 miles per hour, 710 kilometers per hour, 380 knots, plus. Landing speed, 80 miles per hour, 70 knots, 130 kilometers per hour. Ferry range, 4,000 miles, 6,400 kilometers, 3,500 nmi, with drop tanks. Service ceiling, 35,000 feet, 11,000 meters, plus. Wing loading, 45.18 pounds per SQ feet, 220.6 kilograms per square meter. Power/mass, 6.66 pounds per horsepower, 4.05 kilograms per kW. See also, edit. Related development. Northrop P-61 Black Widow. Aircraft of comparable role, configuration, and era. Grumman F-7 F-3P Tigercat. Hughes XF-11. Lockheed F-4/F-5 Lightning. Related lists. List of military aircraft of the United States. References, edit. Notes, edit. A. B. C. D. Johnson, Bob, February 1976. Seeing Eye Widow. Scale Modeler. Volume 11, Number 2. Pages 30 to 44. A. B. C. Thompson 1999, pages 84 to 85. Note, their photos of Korea were invaluable to the UN forces during the first few weeks of that war. It was not until the Marine photo version F-7 F-3P Tigercat made its sweeps over Incheon that any additional pictures were taken. A. B. C. D. E. F. G. H. Pape, Gary R., John M., and Donna Campbell. Northrop P-61 Black Widow, The Complete History and Combat Record, pages 104 to 108.